Now we're recording on the Zoom, and then now we're recording on the audio. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, Julia, how are you?
Hi, Chitty. I'm great.
I feel like this, as I mentioned in pre-production, that I feel like I haven't seen you in a very long time.
Yeah, it is really great to see your face.
I
I feel
know.
like I haven't seen your face in a long time. I've been following kind of your social medias.
Mhm.
Um, so I know where you are location wise.
New York.
Yeah. But I haven't seen you in a while. So it's really
Yes.
good to see
So
you
this is
again.
good that we're using this podcast as an excuse to catch up because
Absolutely.
I moved from Philadelphia 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah. So it's been some time. So, Julia, I begin every podcast by asking my guests who are they and how did they get to where they are. So, what's your story, Julia?
All right. So Spark Notes. I always have trouble like putting myself in a box, but I'd say that I am, in a sense, a serial entrepreneur. And the last few years, 4 years, I have been focusing my attention on my real estate investing and development company. I'm a licensed general contractor and a landlord. That stemmed from my passion of financial education and learning the importance of investing and wanting to be a business owner. So I kind of like threw them all together and
Mhm.
started this venture, on a whim. A few years ago, I packed up, moved to Philly by myself, and started this business. And this is where I'm at. So
When did you pack up? When did you
summer of 2016.
and how old were you?
Oof, I was 24. Yeah, I was 24.
And why did you move?
So at the time, I was studying real estate. I was doing research on like real estate markets, and I grew up about 45 minutes outside of Philly. And where I grew up, it was very um, rural, would probably be the best word. You know, lots of farms, lots of land. Real estate value was really low. As you would drive around, it'd be like foreclosure, foreclosure. Everything was for sale. No one was
Mhm.
buying. And when I finally, convinced my parents that like, hey, this is what I'm doing, they're like, why don't you just do it here? And, from a research standpoint, it just didn't make sense to start a business in buying, selling, and running real estate because of taxes, because of the market, and all of the things. So, um, that brought me to Philly. After a while, I was, driving neighborhoods, falling in love with the city itself. And, real estate just made so much sense. It's like a really hot market. It has been for a while. There's a lot of opportunity. It's really low entry price. So I'm a Philadelphian.
When did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Um, I think I was a junior in high school. So I was one of those kids that, every week I wanted to be something different. And I would go all in, right? So like I wanted to be at one point like a forensic scientist. So I'm like taking classes and I'm reaching out to the state police forensics unit, and I'm like, doing tours and classes. And then a few weeks later, I'm like, you know what? I want to be a nurse instead because I want to deal with people that are alive. And then like shortly after that, I'd be like, you know what? I want to be a teacher. And I was all over the map. And I read this book, I think my junior year of high school, called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mhm.
And yeah, it like changed my thinking 100%. I knew from that point that I wanted to own my own business, whatever that looked like. So I started paying attention to what my passions were and what excited me. At the time, that was photography. So I
Mhm.
started a photography business right out of high school.
Wow.
And um, yeah, so pretty much from then, it's definitely been a journey of on and off figuring out if it was a good decision or not.
Mhm.
But I think my mind was made up whether I was aware of it or not, like in high school.
I want to go into your real estate development business. It's going to be its own pocket that I want to get into. but I want to dig down a little bit more in your entrepreneurial beginnings. Do you remember your first photo shoot?
I do. Yeah.
What was it like?
Yes. So at the time, I think so. My dad has always been a business owner. I watched him throughout my life, like become successful in a few different businesses, and I picked up on a lot of his behaviors. And there was a few things that I learned from him, and one of them, the most important thing, was like relationships. So like he always stressed that like he didn't spend $1 on marketing. He never put an
Mm-hmm.
ad in the paper. He never did any kind of advertising or marketing. He said it's all word of mouth. So I did my first, I think it was probably like 5 photo shoots for free, just because I wanted to build those relationships. I wanted to, one, it was like a learning experience. I had never done a photo shoot before. You can sit online and like learn how to pose people and stuff, but so it was a huge learning experience. But also some of those people became repeat clients. I did weddings and family portraits and newborns and college graduations.
Mm-hmm.
So that was how I started that business.
Wow, that's amazing. And you still do that today?
I do, on a very micro level. I'll do it for like repeat clients that, I've done all of their photos forever. So I'll
Right.
still do theirs.
Right. Let's talk about your business that you're doing now, Brickhouse Builders 2.0, apparently.
Yeah.
What was 1.0?
So I ended up bringing on a partner onto Brickhouse Builders, which I'll condense the story down as quick as possible. It turned really toxic and really awful, really fast. But the
Oh,
best
wow.
thing that I could do without, because it's my brand. I started the company, so I kind of like abandoned Brickhouse Builders and started Brickhouse Builders 2, so I could continue, operate under the brand and keep business going without tying in the partner that I had brought on to the first company.
Wow. I did not know that.
I was thinking about that right before this. I was like, he doesn't know that. I was like, I wonder if it'll come up.
Do I know this person?
Yes.
All right. Breaking. Oh, wow. All right. Okay. We will talk about that off mic. Wow. I'm so sorry to hear. I'm so sorry to hear that. Wow. So you've rebranded and you are doing this work solo?
Yep.
Wow. And how has it been?
It's been a journey, a beautiful journey, and I'm grateful for every step of the way. Because you can have all of the ideas and plans in the world, and at the end of the day, there's just like very little control that you actually have about how things work out. Like so I would start with like an idea, and then somehow it would like manifest and be something completely different. So my business model has changed over the last few years for sure. I'm at a place now where like I don't do any client work. I don't do I'm doing my last single family right now. And I'm branching out of the niche market that I was focusing on originally.
Right. So let's back up. So what is your business? I'm sure people may not know what we're talking about. So what exactly are you aiming to do?
So as a real estate investor, I focus on, there's a few different avenues. But what I specifically do is I purchase a blighted property, I fix it up, and I create housing, whether it's for sale or for rent.
And how many have you done so far?
I'd say in total, I'm probably around 30.
And one of the big things that I don't know of a lot of people, well, people who are brand new to Julia's story, is that her houses are beautiful. Like absolutely, probably one of the most beautiful houses you will see on the market. it just seems like Julia is picking every micro detail. Maybe if I'm really good at video editing, this is the part where you'll see all of her listings. It's just absolutely beautiful. I actually showed your work to my wife and she was like, who is this person? It's like, I was like,
wow, that's awesome.
no, it is really beautiful. Tell me, why is that so a part of your business, this art? It just seems like artful.
Yeah. I've always liked to consider myself as, I like want to be in the category of like creative entrepreneur, and like real estate, real estate investing, it doesn't always get to be that sexy, but I didn't necessarily know that I was going to fall in love with construction, that I was going to fall in love with design. I do have, a passion for like visual art, photography, and that kind of manifested in designing homes, and it's so much fun. That's the best part of the business, is watching a space transform and having the ideas on paper and walking in a room and learning how to envision the possibilities of what four walls can turn into.
And are you focused on, is it you who's picking out those pieces, like the wood grain, the cabinets, like you are step by step approving all of those things?
Yes.
That is wild. I think a lot of people who, I don't know, I'm not in this business, but just from my casual looking on Instagram, it seems like a lot of people are just trying to flip, make money. And so their attention to detail is probably enough needed to sell the home. And for you, who I imagine making money is important, but you also are trying to balance this kind of artful approach to your work. Do you find that it comes at the cost of profit, or does it come at the cost of time? Are you finding a way to balance those two things?
To balance
Being, I imagine, I guess maybe, or not. I imagine by you taking such detail, looking at sconces, for example, takes up more time than the entrepreneur who's probably, what is the cheapest sconce on Amazon? And
right.
So I wonder, do you find yourself in a situation where you're taking longer on a project than needed, or is that something that you're okay with?
Well, it's kind of grown to a point where scheduling is huge. Having things ordered and picked out at the right time to make sure that the project is not slowing down for that reason, that is really important. And not having too much on my plate. That's been something that I learned. You can't, me personally, it's like, I can't be good at something if I'm doing it like 20 times at once. It's like, so I found my sweet spot would be like 3 projects, because I can pay attention the whole time. My stress levels are low. I'm not working 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I get to enjoy the process. Any more than that, it starts getting a little chaotic, a little unmanageable. And that had to be something that I learned through experience. Like, whoa, I don't like this. This isn't working for me. Now I know moving forward that I need to set some boundaries. So that's kind of how that has manifested. And also it's like, something that I really stress in my own mindset. It's like, money can't be the top priority. So I listen to philosophers and speakers of such, and the idea is that do what you love, do it with passion, and the money will come.
Right. Yeah, I believe that. I believe, I was telling Ronald in my other podcast that I've known ever since I was little that I wasn't going to chase money. I was going to do exactly what I was passionate. At the time, it was writing poetry and doing stuff like that. I just believe that once people identify what they're passionate about, money will come.
Absolutely.
But there's two things people need to recognize. You have to figure out what that passion is. And secondly, it still takes work. Like you're going to find the passion, but it's not something that's going to just fall in your lap. You have to really hustle and grind. And I'm curious about your hustle and grind. One of the things on your Instagram that you are very, you want to put out there, you say woman owned real estate company. And why is that important for you to really put that out there?
I think it's really important to emphasize that it is possible. It's, real estate, entrepreneurship, financing, investing, all of these things tend to be male dominated. And there are biases that come with, these titles. And that was an entire growth process for me because it's just, I was like going against the grain for what felt like the first few years, because anytime I would say something out loud, I would get the most bizarre, outright comments of women shouldn't be doing that. Or I'd park in Lowe's and some guy would be like, trucks are for men. It'd be so blatant to a point where I assumed that it was a higher power communicating to me of you're doing the right thing. This is the reality of it. Push against the grain, and the fact of the matter is it's not rocket science and it's not very hard. And ironically, my experience has been that women happen to be better at some of these things. And for instance, real estate and construction. I don't know where it became okay for men to be designing houses. So that's, they're buying and they're investing and they're contractors, which we know they all look the same. It's the Bob the Builder, but what is actually behind that is organization skills, project management skills, leadership skills. And these are things that I don't enjoy being gender biased, but they may come easier to women. And that has been my experience in the business with people that I've worked with. And I was working with this one person for a while who really tried to convince me that, this wasn't for me and I couldn't do it as good. And then I'd watch them operate and have different ideas on how to do things. They would say no, and then I would go and do them and it'd work out so much better. So yeah, it's super important to me. I do have a passion for educating and mentoring women in real estate. And
can you tell me more about that? Because I see that on social media that you do workshops and different conferences. And can you speak to how you got into that and what has been the I guess the gifts of that experience?
Wow, man, the gifts are endless. But it's funny how I'm going to shout out my friend Nicole, because part of my journey, I always had these few ideas. It was all right, I want to be a real estate investor. I want to be a contractor. I want to blog. I want to be an educator. I want to write a book. There's all of these things. And in the right time, these things will come. And it feels like I would say that out loud and I would think that, but then there's always that little sense of doubt that's well, will you really write a book? Or will you really be an educator? And, I met this woman, Nicole Purvey, who runs a real estate league in Philadelphia. And I went to one of her classes. I introduced myself after, and I was listen, I love what you're doing. I've had similar ideas, and it's awesome to see that you're doing them in real life. And, something that I want to do is, put on classes for women to be able to, and she was let's meet on Tuesday. So it was a few days before that, we went out to lunch. We sat there for an hour. By the end of lunch, we had a title to the class. We had prices in mind. She had her background is marketing. She took the whole thing through, and like it was just such a powerful experience to like have this idea or this goal of like, this is something that I want to do, and then like at the perfect time. It was so perfect. The opportunity landed in my lap and just kind of like blossomed on its own. You know, it's just like, if I feel like it happened so fast, and I was just like, did we just schedule a class? She would text me, she's like, we sold 20 tickets already, we sold 30 tickets already, we sold out. And like
wow.
it was amazing. And at the time I was like, I am not a teacher, right? So like I of course like had some anxiety around like speaking in front of a group of people, but I believed in this thing so much. And I like, there was no doubt on the information that I had and the experiences that I had, because for a while I could tell people how powerful it is to be able to invest in real estate, to be able to own your own business, to be able to like take power over your finances and all of these things. But once you start living it, you're like, guys, it works. You need to, I have something to say. And yeah, it's been really cool to watch people in the class take on their own real estate careers, women in the class becoming general contractors. It's really amazing.
Wow. How many classes have you done?
We've done 2.
Wow. And you plan to do more?
We should be doing a third, hopefully this fall. We were going to do it this summer, but we'll probably in the fall.
We got the summer. I feel confident about the summer. I do. I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
What have you learned as a teacher that you may not have learned as an entrepreneur?
So one thing that I learned while teaching and while preparing is the amount of confidence that is developed by preparing and studying things that I already knew, you know? And like I had this idea that I was like, if I ever want to learn about something, I should just teach it. Because I feel like I've been doing this for years, and until I put it all on paper, I felt like I'd learned everything all over again.
Yeah, that is exactly why I love teaching, because I better understand the books that I would read casually because I have to teach it to somebody else. Like I'm like picking up little nuances in this novel. Like, oh, I didn't realize that character said that. I would have never caught that if I didn't have to think about finding a way to relate this to teenagers.
Right.
And it makes me even watch television shows differently. Like I'm always thinking about, well, how would I teach this? And you know,
right.
Yeah, it is a incredible profession. Do I want to talk about coronavirus? Maybe we should, because you brought it up. I feel like we have to. I'm curious your insight on how this virus, this pandemic, has affected not only your business but also the whole real estate business in general.
Right. So I'll start by saying, I know that there is not a soul on this planet that's not affected by this thing, right? And like, I had to keep kind of doing like mini reality checks because of that, because like, you know, I could suffer from self-pity, you know, and like selfishness of like, oh, well, this is like, this thing is affecting me. And like real quick of like, okay, well, like, look at all the things that I could be grateful for. You know, it's not affecting me in these ways. But, you know, my business came to a complete halt. They shut down construction probably about 3 weeks ago, but I had actually started self-quarantining a week prior to that. So I was kind of like working from home. I would drive by a job site, meet someone with a check, or, you know, very minimal work. But at that point, I was already staying in before they place the order. I'm also a landlord, so there's been, I'm affected with income in that way too. Because as a small landlord, I don't have the luxury to say, let's waive rent for 3 months, because it would be irresponsible, because I would end up losing a lot of things and putting myself in a dangerous situation. But being a human affected by this thing, I can approach it with compassion and try to come up with results that are fair for everybody. And a few people in the real estate community, we would put on a few Zoom meetings. We would talk about how everyone was handling these things. So we came up with a few ideas. What I offered my tenants, when a tenant moves into an apartment, they typically pay first, last, and security. So for this month, I offered that anyone who's without work can just use their last month's rent in reserve. And then going forward, it's like, if you still can't pay, then what we can do is like, we can finance rent, and there will be no late fees. I won't report anything to any credit bureau. But if you're not able to pay, you can stay there. We'll figure it out. This thing is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
It's temporary. So we'll
Right.
figure it out.
We will definitely figure it out. Do you have any houses on the market?
I have one house that is about halfway done. It's on the market as like pre-sale. Was expected to be done this month. So we're about 2 months away from completion. So in reality, I am seeing that lenders are becoming very tight on the buying end. Credit score requirements have gone up. Down payment needs have also gone up. Our buyer pool is being shrunk for that reason, as well as nobody's going to buy a house on unemployment. So we're down to the people that are essential and also have 20% saved. So I don't know how much that'll affect the price, but it'll affect it being able to get sold.
That's absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. What a challenge.
Again, I have one, one. There's one.
Yeah. Right.
There's people that do this like on a large capacity with employees, with huge amounts of like workers' comp insurance, and what they do for a living is in bulk, in a very big way, build houses. Right. I have one.
Right. That's true.
Right.
You got this, Julia. Let's add some value to our listeners. If I've been seeing a lot on Instagram, like, this is the time to do your hustle. You have time, you can figure it out. And that can come off wrong to a lot of people. But I'm curious, if someone wanted to start a real estate business, now they have the space. They're like at home. They have a notebook. They have a computer. They have time. What would you say? What are like 2-3 things they should do to begin their real estate empire in the time of the coronavirus?
I would say a few things that you could do. One is, obviously foundational education. I'll shout out Bigger Pockets, of course.
What's Bigger Pockets?
It's a real estate community. They have a podcast. They have forums. They have blogs. They, they cover all things real estate for years. So if there's their podcast interviews real estate investors from all over the country, all ages, all different styles of investing. So they have everything that you would need to know to get started. And then second is, study your market, get familiar with like what things are selling for around you, how often they're staying on the market, things like that. And then third is, check your credit. If you haven't checked in a while, go online, check your credit, see where you're at, see where you can improve.
Yeah. Why is that? I mean, I feel like I know the answer to this, but why is that important for starting a business?
So I can tell you that it is not the most important thing, because like anything else, I don't want people to get discouraged because they have bad credit, right? There's ways to like maneuver, these things, like finding a partner with great credit, or, having capital instead of credit, things like that. There's always opportunity for everyone. but just that, it like opens your opportunities, right? If you sit down with someone and you don't have much experience, you don't have a portfolio, and you're like, listen, I have great credit. It's an asset to have,
Right.
it says a lot about you and your financial behavior.
Right. What about social media? Should they start like what could someone do on Instagram or whatever to kind of jumpstart their business? You seem to be doing a lot on Instagram.
Yeah, it is such a blessing to live in a time where like there's just so much information,
Oh my God.
it like blows my mind that people used to start businesses without the internet and without,
Crazy.
I
Crazy.
couldn't imagine, we really make it like so anybody can start a business.
Right.
Information is free. I've been studying something new recently, and like I was talking to someone and they were like, have you bought any classes yet? And I'm like, I haven't run out of free information yet.
Right.
When I run out of free information,
Yeah.
then maybe I'll invest in a class.
Absolutely.
But I've spent the last 2 weeks, most of the day, studying this thing because there's information all over social media.
Yeah.
But, it is important to build a brand. Your business, relationships are the most important thing, right? People, like an example. So my boyfriend's in music, and he's been spending a lot of time on like music marketing, and things that we talk about is like, you don't attract people to you by your music. You attract people to you by you, and then they get to enjoy your music.
That's a gem, guys. That is an absolute gem. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. So that's just an example of like why building a brand,
and you would pay $10,000 to get that same information. It's very true. It's you have to get people to like you. People care about even the journey. Say, hey, I always wanted to sing. I'm super scared about it, but here we go. Like that is more enticing than you posting a song on SoundCloud. By you saying, I'm trying this thing out. I don't know. I'm going on live at 8 p.m. and I'm just going to sing the Brady Bunch. And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And
I'm one to have trouble separating the art from the artist, So it's like, man, there's a few things that have come out this year that have just really ruined me being able to enjoy that person's product anymore,
Right.
And that's just like a prime example.
Right. That's so true. That's so true. Yeah. Well, we're starting a new segment here on the Asoluka Podcast, and you're the first person to be a part of it. Are you excited about this? I am an English teacher, and so I'm starting a new section called Deep Dives, in which I ask you 5 questions that will make you have to think about them because it's a deep dive. For people who
didn't get this far on the other podcast.
Oh, yeah. I know. So for those that don't know, when we go into deep dives and literature courses is when we like really like zoom in on a character or something a character says or something, and we really try to investigate why that happened, because everything matters in English. They're like, oh, water is representative of Jesus, and maybe it's a sign of Christian, all that stuff. But sometimes it's bogus, but sometimes it's real. There's a lot of like stuff in there. So you're the first person to be part of Deep Dive. Oh. All right. Question number 1, but the deep dive, the text is you. You are the text. And because you are authoring your text, you would know how to answer these questions. So the first question of deep dive is, when was the last time that you were pissed?
Whoa. Okay. Okay. I had to deal with like a business litigation, and the outcome was not favorable to me. And it's funny, is like, I invited God in and said, like, before, during, for this 8-hour, I'm sitting at the table, like afterward. And like, I would go from like, kind of being humbled and grateful for the opportunity and for growth, and then being switched to like, and it was like very extremes. Yeah, but there's a lot of feelings there.
Putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Wow. I, again, did not know that. We're just catching up. You all are just the audience of Julie and I catching up. Brief aside, I want to just tell this story real quick because you have to. I'm going to pause deep dive because I think this is important. Julie's understating her brilliance here, but that's okay. I want people to understand this. I bought a house in Philadelphia. I bought a house in Brewery Town. I was super into it. I just thought it was a smart idea. I was sitting at home and I was living in Francisville in Philadelphia. And I saw a commercial for like, you can get a loan in your underwear. And I was like, ooh, what's that mean? And so serious, it's a true story. And so that day, like I saw that commercial, I got a loan like that day. And I was like, I think I'm going to buy a house tomorrow. It was that quick. And it was like, I knew a real estate agent because I just happened to be at a dinner party and she was sitting at our table. And so I was like, oh, she's a real estate agent. I Googled her name and it was like top 5 real estate agents in Philadelphia. I was like, what? So I emailed her like, this is super random. You're sitting at my table, blah, blah. Anyway, fast forward, I bought the house. And then I started in Brewery Town. And then I started to just research like who's doing work in this area. And then Julia name kept it was like, I just saw Julia's name and stuff. And I was like, I was like, who is this person? So I went on her Instagram. And so then I was like, Julia, I want to pick your brain. We should get coffee. And I thought Julia would be like some 40-year-old woman. Like, yeah, I'm a grizzled vet and I've been doing. Julia was like 19 or something. I was like, what? She is so young. And she's like doing all of these things and she's so knowledgeable. And I was like, how are you this young and like just know all these things? And she was like, oh, I know a guy who does notarizing. Oh, I know a guy who does flooring. Like she was like doing all. And I remember we were in I don't remember this, but we're like in the car and she was calling all these people. She's like, listen, if you can't get it done, I need somebody else to do it. I was like, whoa, who is this person? I was like, so Julia is serious. And so anyway, brief aside, back to deep dives. Second question, if you weren't a real estate developer and educator, what would you be?
I'd be an herbalist living in the rainforest, tending to my gardens and my herbs and plants and providing plant medicine to people.
Okay. Again, didn't know that. All right. Did not expect that answer. All right. Okay. Next question of deep dive. When was the last time you were so happy you cried?
Man, a story popped in my head. I think I'm just going to have to say it. So I'm like, please let there be anything else. Damn. So not a big crier, but this story always has stood out to me. I was maybe somewhere between 5 and 7. And like my mom, I was sick and I had to stay home from school and I had to stay home with my teenage brothers who like slept all day and then played video games and would like tie me to the pole to like make sure I didn't get myself into trouble. Just like mean older brothers, and my mom came home from work and I remember just coming out of the room and just like sobbing because I didn't think that she'd ever come back. And like that story just popped out, so I had to say it. I know it's not that cool, but
no, it's cool. Yeah.
Shout out, mom. Really love
shout out all the moms. Mother's Day is coming up.
So glad she came back.
Thank you, mom. Thank you to all the moms who continue to come back. Question number 4. We have 2 more of deep dive. Number 4, can real estate be an act of social justice?
Ooh. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, there's just so many ways, you know. The short answer is yes. Um, man, there's just you can there's just so much blight available, which is opportunity if you can get access to it to
Right.
create so um many resources for the community.
Right.
And you know, it's a little mind-blowing that we have this like insane homelessness problem
Hmm.
where we have thousands of vacant properties sitting that mostly the city owns,
Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
Try to get a little political.
No, I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
It's the city of Philadelphia, by the way. I'm making sure we're clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever happened to that land bank? Is that not successful?
No, it is very challenging. My experience, and I've put some good effort into inquiring about different properties that were owned by the land bank, and it's kind of, you hit a dead end over and over again, and
Hmm.
it's kind of apparent that it's like you need to know somebody who has money to put in the right pocket.
Yeah.
It's typical politics.
It sucks because on their website they make it seem so user friendly. They're like, it just seems so easy. It's not.
Mm-mm.
I've been super interested in, you've been to my house in Philadelphia. There's like a lot behind my house that has been just sitting there. And I'm just so curious, like, can I buy that lot? Like who owns that lot? And I have no
Right.
idea. I have no idea. And I've been inquiring about it, but it seems like I have to know somebody who could be like, you're the person that's going to give me the information about this lot. But I've reached out to the land bank and all that. I've gotten nothing back from them, but I do want to buy that lot.
Mm.
Last question. What is your North Star? Meaning, like, what is the thing that motivates you?
Mm. Um, what motivates me, one is freedom, which is
Mhm.
like a very vague, subjective term, sense of like financial freedom, spiritual freedom. You know, I just like want to live a peaceful, you know, fulfilling life, right?
Mhm.
And also, it's like to be an example.
Mm. You've mentioned spirituality like underneath the table. A lot of these conversations is that a framework that you are like living under? Like you've been talking, you say you're inviting God into your court
Yeah.
proceedings, and you want to be an herbalist. There seems to be a spiritual undertone in your, which I don't know about. Is this true?
Yeah, I think it's something that parallel to my entrepreneurship has
Mm.
grown alongside of it. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and it's really powerful the way, you know, spirituality and entrepreneurship, you know, kind of coexist. And for me personally, it's like um, for me to be successful in what I do. And success to me is not financial or materialistic. It's like um, happiness, you know, and pride, things like that. And it's like if I have the tendency to like control, right? So the practice of like turning over control, you know, has transformed the way I run business, you know, and to like, you know, something so simple. I was thinking about this earlier. It's like um, something so simple as understanding that all I have to do is put one foot in front of the other and the outcome is not up to me is just so freeing because
Mhm.
like I want to be the like I want to, you know, shove a round peg in a square hole, you know, and just kind of like force things to what I think are best for me. And
Mhm.
like the truth is it's like I don't know what's best for me, but what I can do is I can show up and I can, you know, do the legwork and everything else will work out exactly as it's supposed to. And, you know, my experience has been, it's like, if I try to force what I think is the right way, it doesn't work out the way I think it should, you
Mm,
know? So the most powerful thing in my business is like accepting the fact that, you know, I maybe don't know what is best for me in the business, and to just continue to like show up and learn and grow. And, you know, that has been it's like such a sigh of relief, you know, to just go throughout your day and be like, I'm going to do this thing. If it works out, then that's for me. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to call anyone yelling. I'm not going to get like, you know, I'm not going to like try to find another way to get it. It's,
right.
yeah. So that shift really happened probably about 2.5 years ago.
Really? What was
Yeah.
the moment? Do you remember like the thing that jump started that?
Um, oh, it was just kind of like a surrendering to,
Mm.
you know, things that weren't working out very well.
Mm. Julia, there's a lot. Wow. 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 I didn't know that either. This is so great that I'm.
I know. I think we could like talk for hours, because like
Yeah.
I was listening to the episode 2 of the podcast, and like you had said something, you brought it up in this episode a little bit, but it was like so powerful. It's like, you know, you knew from a young age that like you weren't going to chase money,
No. Yeah.
right? And it's like all of these people around you are like, look, I'm a lawyer. Look at the things that I have. Don't you want it? And you're like,
No.
no,
No.
I really
And
don't.
yeah, no. I didn't want it like that. I like don't get it twisted. I didn't want to be broke, right? But I didn't want it like that. You know, I mentioned it in the other podcast. Like, this is the perfect time to talk about this, but about God. I recognize now that I'm supposed to be doing exactly this, and I think as a kid, for some reason, it empowered me to never follow a path that was opposite of what's in my heart. But if
Right.
you would have interviewed me as a fourth grader and said, "Why are you so confident that you don't want to be a lawyer?" I'll be like, "I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know." And I just feel so sorry for young people who know in their heart they don't want to do these professions, but they are so pulled into it by, you name it, family, social media, friends, schools. A lot of schools are pushing this. Like, the way to get
Yeah.
out of poverty is to do these 4 jobs. I feel bad for them because they ultimately get that high paying job and are miserable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just don't
Yep.
want to live. I don't want it for me.
Absolutely. That, and like, um, I understood, you know, us from like for a long, like since I was a kid, because you brought up like the like immigrant mentality, you know, like you have to, you know, go to school and you have to be successful and look at the opportunities you have. I didn't have these. And it's like, I like sprinkle in a little more God. It's like, you know, these ideas and thoughts and feelings are like, you know, God given. And for so long, it's like I'm pushing self-will, and like, you know, I, you know, think this thing might be a better idea, even though like, you know, I have this intuition, this feeling that is steering me a different direction. Um, but what was I gonna say with the? I was like working. So I was working a full-time job and working a second job at nights and weekends, just to kind of like have a livable wage, right? And I remember always having this feeling of like, this can't be it. It can't be. There's no way that this is it. I'm like, I don't even have a partner. I don't even have kids. I don't have a pet. Like, I'm literally just taking care of me, and it does not feel right. You know, it's like, wow, there's 7 days in a week, and you want me to spend 5 of them working for somebody else's dream? 5 of them, you know? And it's like, I couldn't fathom that, you
Right.
know? Because like, you know, if like at the time, it's like I'm working full time, got like I went to school, you know, and then like I want to have friends and family and learn about new things that excite me and travel. You can't do all of them. And
Hmm.
like, it's not fair to say that that's just not for you. You can't do all of them.
Right.
That I didn't believe that.
Right. Right. So true. I want to be mindful of your time. And so
I got all day. I told you I'm not working.
it's true. I didn't, I just didn't know this, this spiritual part of your journey. The idea, I don't think people would ever put those two, that this very spiritual mindset, entrepreneurship,
Right.
they go hand in hand.
I really want to kind of on some platform, in some channel, kind of like bring that to light.
We're doing it right now, Julia.
This is it. It has started. This seed.
You started it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, because there's just so many different ways that you can have that conversation. You in terms of like energy and manifesting and abundance and like the law of attraction, there's that whole part, but then like that's a whole conversation. But also it's like, entrepreneurs tend to have a distinct personality, and like it tends to be a little on overdrive, a little obsessive, a little like work harder, that's been my experience with entrepreneurs that I've spent time with. And burnout is real, and like, again, like self-willing our way to something. But I always had this thought of like creating some kind of retreat specifically for entrepreneurs to ground down, recenter, take the time to kind of like let outside energies in. I think that's important for our personality types.
One of funny you brought this up. I have not shared this at all except in this household. So this is exclusive. I want to open a retreat center.
Wow.
I do. And I want it to really focus on communities of color. Because I feel that having that space to reflect, unfortunately, is easier for people with means, right? I can spend $200 and go into the woods to be silent. That's not a problem, but $200 means groceries for, 2 months or. And so I feel like that's something that has changed my life, being able to reflect, I did a retreat where I didn't talk for 1 week, which is crazy. And it's really centered me and really helped me. And it's unfortunate that maybe that's locked out for a lot of people. And I'm just curious. I really am interested in healthcare, and I'm interested in mental health and how that manifests itself in communities of color. And so we should talk about that, Julia. I
love that.
I want it.
Yeah, I have a few ideas that I've been slowly working on. I'm not going to air them here.
Oh, yeah.
Off mic, I'll tell you about them. I kind of dropped a little hint earlier.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We're going to end this podcast because I want this is something I'm really passionate about, and seeing how we can do that. I just think that, anyway, I don't want to go too much into it because, still my idea, world. Anyway, Julia, what's your Instagram? Where can people follow you, your journey and all that?
My Instagram handle is at Brickhouse Builders. And follow her
and see all of her beautiful homes. Just beautiful. Absolutely. The one we're over an hour, whatever. I try to keep my podcast at 1 hour, because people lose focus, but there's the one you did with the, I think it's a Strawberry Mansion. I think it's like 5 bedrooms, something crazy like that, right? And it had like a foyer, and it had like the chandelier, the circle chandelier. Julia.
That's my favorite project to date.
Julia, that made me want to like find money to buy it. I was like, I'm buying this house.
Yeah, that was a cool one because it was a property that was originally zoned for commercial use, rezoned it single family. So someone ended up with a 3,000 square foot single family home, row home.
Do you know who they like? Were you there at signing?
I didn't meet them. I haven't met them yet, but I've emailed, I've talked to them. Super cool.
Are they a family?
It's a couple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Have kids? Do they have kids? Did you know?
I didn't, not that I know of.
Because that's
not yet. You kind of have to in that.
in that house. That's a kid house. That's
at least
like
a kid per floor, you know.
Yeah, that's like a full house. Like that's like like if they had a show and like the family, like ha ha ha, the troll. That is the house. And again, if I'm good at video, you would see it right now. We'll see if I make it or not. But anyway, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Honor.
Super pleasure. Julia's, I always say, I say this all the time off mic to Julia, but like she inspires me. And it's always cool to pick her brain, and I'm so happy we're friends. And I'm super excited to see what you're going to do, and hope you guys are too. And I hope you all stay safe, stay brave too, and stay hopeful. We're going to get through this. We're all in this together, and I'll see you next time.